Back when I really started to get into playing video games as a teenager, Rockstar was always one of the big developers on my radar. GTA 5 was the video game equivalent of required reading when I was in high school, Red Dead Redemption was a beloved open world classic, and GTA San Andreas was, of course, a legendary title. And these were largely the games that I occupied myself with back then. I had a PS2 and a copy of Bully, in the UK then referred to as Canis Canem Edit due to the controversy surrounding that other name, but I'll admit that it never much interested me. I wanted grand, sweeping adventures, dark crime narratives filled with violence and action. A game about a school was just a little bit too close to my own world to really interest me. And so I played a little bit and never really gave it the attention I should have done. Replaying it now, however,
Hopkins, you're quite the nastiest little boy I have ever encountered.
Okay, I'm frightened, and I've got a weak bladder.
Hey, Aggie.
You can clean my shoes.
This school is filled with wild beasts.
You want me to steal your stuff back from a bloodthirsty mob of angry greaseballs?
Get used to it, kid. You're a man.
No!
I always knew I was a born leader, Ernest.
I can do anything I like in this place. Anything at all.
This place is full of bullies and maniacs.
Nonsense! That's just school spirit. Come here.
You're a degenerate! To think I trusted you!
You're a pig. You've ruined my life. Bulworth is a microcosm for the whole world.
I like you, Jimmy Hopkins, but I need you to do something for
Go
me.
away, Timmy.
And boy, that nose of yours, keep it clean.
it may well be Rockstar's best game. Their most mechanically sound, tightly paced, funniest, with a killer score, some of the best realised characters in gaming, and a world that still manages to feel real and alive almost 20 years later. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about why I think that is. So, settle in and get ready to re-enroll in Bulworth Academy as we discuss Bully, Rockstar's misunderstood masterpiece. The story is simple. You are Jimmy Hopkins, a down-on-his-luck student forced into attending the ruthless Bulworth Academy, and he quickly learns that its reputation for being one of the worst schools in the country is not just a legend. As such, you've got to do everything in your power to ensure your survival over the next year. Everything from attending classes to making sure you're not knocked senseless by the school's array of bullies, degenerates, and psychos.
Jimmy Hopkins, and don't ask how I'm doing. I've been here 5 minutes and already people want me dead.
It's a simple setup, for sure, but one that the game gets a lot of solid gameplay and narrative twists out of. I think that what makes Bully unique is that it is a game that manages to grow on you in a very subtle, understated way, in that the game essentially forces you to quickly accustom yourself to its world. It's a smaller, more intimate map than what Rockstar were producing for games like GTA 3 and San Andreas at around the same time. But this allows it to feel less like a game map and more like a home. You begin to learn how to best navigate around the map, the little shortcuts you can take to cut off time on your journey, the hidden details and little intricacies that begin to reveal themselves to you the more you play and the more you begin to explore. It's a home in which you live under the constant threat of violence and fear, a home ruled by each of its archetypical gangs with an iron fist, but it's yours, and you come to know it far better than pretty much any other open world game I've ever played, precisely because it isn't a wide, sprawling maze of streets and storefronts. It's a school, a collection of hangouts, classrooms, and dormitories. It feels real and lived in, a place that continues to exist even when you're not around. And this is why the chapter structure of the game is so genius. Each chapter sees you take over each of the school's 4 main gangs, and as you do so, you can visibly see the changes that you are making to the school in-game. For example, once you knock the greasers into shape, you'll rarely be hassled by them again, and what was once a place in which you were despised and ridiculed is somewhere you eventually end up ruling. Is it simple? Absolutely, but it's immensely satisfying to see your effort and work be rewarded in such an immediate manner. This would actually be quite a good place to talk about the game's characters. Jimmy Hopkins is, of course, a fantastic protagonist in that he initially appears incredibly violent and aggressive, the sort of individual that flourishes at Bulworth Academy. But beneath this tough exterior, we actually begin to see that his intentions are indeed honest and good. He sincerely wants to make Bullworth Academy a better and safer place, not only for himself but for the benefit of those around him. Whereas the majority of his peers are largely selfish, concerned only with their most immediate affairs, Jimmy looks out for and defends other people, even if he does occasionally make a bit of extra cash whilst doing so.
I'll pay you $2.
$2? Are you crazy? Make it 5.
No, $2?
Great. $5. Let's go, buddy.
What we have in Jimmy is a kind of anti-hero, a rebel protagonist who is very easy to get behind and root for without the game needing to compromise its focus on pranks, schoolyard warfare, and general mischief. Jimmy Hopkins may not be the first to start a fight, but he'll certainly be the one to finish it. Gary Smith is really the perfect antagonist for Bully, given that he is the complete inverse of Jimmy. Whereas Jimmy appears belligerent and violent on the surface and harbours genuinely good intentions beneath his tough guy veneer, Gary masquerades as a friendly, amicable individual and is actually entirely hateful and cunning. In fact, he's the first student we're introduced to early in the game, the first to offer to be your friend. And although Jimmy realises that he is indeed bad news, he sticks with him initially, determined to see the good in him. Bully is a game that is certainly built on a smaller scale than most open world games. The stakes are lower, the violence less permanent, the world a little smaller. But Gary is simply a reflection of some of the real people who inhabit our world. That distinctive type of manipulative, belligerent individual who smile to your face and then stab you in the back. And let's be fair, more often than not, these people are intelligent and careful enough to ensure that they always end up winning. This is why the final boss fight with him works as well as it does. Is it entirely too easy, especially if you've been picking up all the combat upgrades along the way? Sure, but it's supposed to be a beatdown, a satisfying revenge taken out on the person who has dogged your footsteps for the entire game. Gary really doesn't put up much of a fight. But then again, why would he? You're the one who's been getting his hands dirty throughout the game's main storyline, doing odd jobs and favours for just about everyone on the school campus. Gary has manipulated and cheated his way to the top, having other people do his work for him. Once the two of you finally come face to face, there's no one else he can throw in front of you, and appropriately, the fight is no contest. I will openly admit that the majority of the game's secondary characters are less fully realised than Jimmy Hopkins and Gary Smith. I think Pete Kalowski, this shy, intelligent guy who essentially falls into a friendship with Jimmy by his association with Gary, is a fairly enjoyable and well-rounded character, although Jimmy's tendency to work alone ensures that he gets very little screen time. The rest of the characters mostly all fall into one of the game's four main factions: the jocks, the nerds, the greasers, and the preppies. And they're pretty much all as stereotypical and as thinly defined as you'd expect. However, this is honestly a really good thing, because the game is great at mining comedic potential from these different archetypes in a way that never feels cheap or lazy. As someone who usually has a pretty short attention span for cutscenes in video games, I found myself thoroughly entertained by the character interactions we're treated to here, and you can tell the writers had a blast figuring out just how Jimmy would bounce off these different types of characters.
Yo, Jimmy, I'm over here. Give me 5, dude.
No.
Yeah, well, cat. Looks like your homies took care of some lames for us.
What are you talking about?
Don't get fresh with your homies.
Can you please talk normally?
This is my normal style of rapping, bro.
Alright, enough.
I think I find Bully to be Rockstar's most consistently funny game. Of course, this isn't to suggest that other games of theirs don't have their moments, they absolutely do. I'm particularly fond of San Andreas in this regard.
What do you want? You gotta eat to keep your strength up, man.
Hey, I'll take a number 9, fat boy.
Give me a number 9, just like his.
Let me get a number 6 with extra dip.
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda.
But Bully seems more conscious of making the most of these smaller interactions, making them memorable and enjoyable. And it ensures the game is consistently entertaining to play from the first chapter to the last. And inevitably, I think it's the little things that make Bully as memorable as it is, why it continues to have such a comparatively small but utterly dedicated fanbase, and why, almost 20 years after its initial release, that fanbase is so excited about a potential sequel or remake. But even if that doesn't happen, even if Rockstar chooses never to acknowledge the legacy of Bully ever again, we'll always have this game. Class is always in session at Bullworth Academy. There's always another chance to re-enroll and take that journey all over again.